Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a new edition of the Daily Debate. In tonight's show, we're obviously going to be following up on the latest development taking place within the Gaza Strip and the Egyptian Rafah border crossing between Egypt and the Gaza Strip. We're going to be looking at the escalations taking place today and yesterday as well. And joining us here tonight in the studio by Ambassador Soaad Shalaby, the former Assistant Foreign Minister. Your Excellency, thank you very much for joining us this evening.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, before we start off our discussion regarding Gaza, let's check out this main story making the news today, where Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli visited El Arish in northern Sinai, during which he met with the heads of the Northern Sinai Tribes Union, Sinai elders and chiefs, as well as a number of media personnel, politicians and public figures. Now, Premier Madbouli vowed that Egypt would not recede any part of Sinai and would launch the second phase of the development in northern Sinai, where strong infrastructure has been laid down. Let's check out this report and we'll be right back.
Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli visited northern Sinai on Tuesday, during which he met with the head of the North Sinai Tribes Union, chiefs and elders of the Sinai tribes, as well as a number of media personnel, politicians and public figures. The Prime Minister also laid the foundation stone for the number of urban societies. During his visit to Al Arish, at the headquarters of the Battalion 101, Madbouli affirmed that the state would launch the second phase of the northern Sinai development, in which a strong infrastructure had been laid down there. He said such a strategic decision had been taken to develop Sinai in parallel with combating terrorism. The Prime Minister said Sinai had been a bastion for resistance against aggression attempts against Egypt throughout history. He stressed that liquidating any issue on the expense of Egyptian lands would not be allowed. He said 1,000 projects had been implemented on the peninsula with a cost of over 290 billion Egyptian pounds, adding that 363 billion pound scheme over 5 years is being implemented. Madbouli said the projects cover many fields, including health and higher education, adding that northern Sinai residents will be able to find many job opportunities during the next period. The Prime Minister described the volume of projects planned for northern Sinai as 3 times. Madbouli said 270,000 fidans are planned for reclamation in northern Sinai, while 115 billion pounds are allocated to establish 21 housing projects in the area. He noted that an industrial zone is planned for Sinai, including projects worth billions of pounds. According to Madbouli, northern Sinai is to be the site of international standard tourist projects and will be an investment destination for investors from around the world. He said a road network of the highest standards will be implemented in Sinai. Added that linking northern Sinai with Egyptian lands everywhere is underway with the aim of aborting any foreign ambitions. Madbouli said Egypt would be an international logistics center with a giant railway network. He also said that Arish port would be developed into an international port with the capacity to compete with other Egyptian ports. The Premier further added that plans are forwarded to establish logistics and free zones in northern Sinai to serve trade movements with neighboring countries and for the area to be a giant investment, industrial and housing center in Egypt. In a press conference in Rafah, Prime Minister Madbouli said Egypt is against any targeting of civilians and added that Egypt is against collective punishment against civilians in Gaza. He reiterated that Egypt is keen to deliver all humanitarian aid to Gaza and the region will not achieve peace without the two-state solution. Madbouli stressed that Egypt would not accept the liquidation of the Palestinian cause at its expense or at that of any other country. He asserted Egypt's total rejection of collective punishment of the Palestinian people, including the residents of the Gaza Strip, asserting that Egypt is in contact at all levels to face the unprecedented humanitarian crisis in Gaza. He confirmed that Egypt would not recede any part of the Sinai Peninsula and is keen on developing it for the sake of the nation. Madbouli said Sinai had witnessed unprecedented development and investment. The Prime Minister vowed that Egypt would not allow a destabilization of any part of the nation. For their part, the chiefs and elders of Sinai expressed full support for President al-Sisi. The governors of northern Sinai said the government is keen on developing the peninsula. At a press statement held at the Egyptian side of the Rafah border crossing with Gaza, the Prime Minister called upon all world leaders to denounce targeting civilians, deploring the loss of over 8,500 lives in Gaza due to the Israeli strikes. Madoudi thanked international government and non-government organizations that have sent humanitarian aid to Palestinians in the Strip to enter through the Rafah crossing.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Starting off our discussion with Her Excellency Ambassador Shalaby. Your Excellency, now, obviously, it is an event that took almost the whole day, the visit by Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli to the Sinai Peninsula, meeting with the head of the Northern Sinai Tribes Union. A lot of people there, a lot of journalists, foreign press as well, public figures. Now, this visit was really focusing on laying down the groundwork and inaugurating a lot of developmental projects, but what about the significance of actually picking such a critical time within the Sinai Peninsula and obviously what's taking place in the Gaza Strip to make such an appearance by the Prime Minister, inaugurating over 1,000 projects costing hundreds of millions of pounds?
This visit is part of the strategy that has been taking place since 2014 to establish a lot of projects and to make believe or to establish the education, hospitals, and all the necessary services that are needed for the Sinai residents. Because generally speaking, since the peace accords that has been signed by President Sadat, Sinai had a very limited population. But when President Sisi came to power, he insisted that Sinai has to be populated, has to have many projects. There was a strategy to encourage university students to go and study in Sinai, and also to open more schools for primary and secondary students, and also build hospitals in different places, whether it is south or northern Sinai. Of course, northern Sinai has suffered a lot from terrorist attacks during the past maybe 7 years, but then it stopped after there was a very strict ruling of President Sisi and the government in order to give back to the right of the Arish and all the northern region residents to go back to their homes and live properly, and increase the production, their local production, and also find job opportunities for their for the youth.
Yes.
Because without this, without having projects for the youth, then they will turn into terrorist attacks. Again, that is very important to have a civilian rule in that area where the youth can find opportunities for the future, whether it is education, whether it is job opportunities, projects, and that is what Prime Minister Madbouli has stressed on when he met the chiefs of the Arabs in Arish, yes, where they were wanting to hear this, especially at this time of when Arish, the border with Israel is a very crucial place now because of the war that is going on between Israel and Hamas. So it was a very important timing for Prime Minister Madbouli to go and to do a press conference, especially for the foreign press who want to know when is the border crossing going to be opened, and when how the medical and food assistance will be delivered to Palestinians.
Yes. Your Excellency, now, there were so many voices calling for the displacement of Gazans and their deportations to the vast land within the Sinai Peninsula, everybody expecting that it would be just an empty desert. But a visit by the Prime Minister talking about 1,000 projects, over 290 billion Egyptian pounds, adding that 363 billion pound scheme are set for the next as well 5 years. Does that mean that it's not just an empty land, it's not just a vast amount of desert with no potential of being inhabited, with a lot of projects, as you've mentioned, be it agriculture or health or education and infrastructure, airports? So does that send also a message to the international communities and to those voices calling for the deportations of Gazans to Sinai?
Yes, of course, because we have rejected the displacement of Gazans into Sinai. We have, it was very clear decision from President Sisi to President Biden, and they both agreed that Gazans should not leave their homes, and they should not be displaced in another place, even if even the Gazans themselves, they have declared that they are not going to leave their homes, because, or else another Nakba will be happening, like 1948 when they left their homes, and they were never back. And that is why they don't want to leave. After all the atrocities that they are facing, the same is going to happen to them. So that is why they have decided to stay there, but they need assistance, and that is the most important, that Egypt's role now, because of course Israel have sealed all the entry points to Gaza, and there's not except one entry point, which is Al Arish. So if this entry point is closed, then how are we going to send the assistance to Palestinians? And they are in dire need. Usually, this crossing border used to allow 500 trucks daily, while now, since the 7th of October, maybe 200, less than 200 trucks have been delivered. So it is a very important message that we are sending to the international community to pressure all the Israeli government and all the UN agencies in order to be able to cross the Arish border and to deliver the assistance to the Palestinians.
Well, Ambassador Shalaby, now the Prime Minister reiterated that Sinai Peninsula, especially northern Sinai, was the basin of resistance over the past few years when the government was actually combating extremist and terrorist elements within the peninsula. And during that time, the chiefs and leaders of the Sinai tribes were actually very much hand in hand with the Egyptian government. Now, having them participating as well within this press conference with the Prime Minister, Does that mean or does it send a message that still all the Sinai and the Sinai tribes, all the chiefs and the elders and the leaders of these tribes are on the same page with the Egyptian stance regarding what's taking place, not just for the developmental projects taking place within Sinai, but also within its stance, the political stance regarding what's taking place in the Gaza Strip?
Yes, of course, and this is what we have seen today in the press conference, and we have seen that many of them have attended and they were collaborating with the government and cooperating, and there has been a lot of projects together with people living in Arish and in other parts in the northern Sinai, and this proves that our plan and our strategy for northern Sinai has succeeded, because hand in hand the chiefs of the tribes and also the government represented by the municipality council, the governor, all the officials there are trying to help those people in order to face all the problems that they are going to face now after receiving so many of the international aid coming from all different countries in the world, all over the world, plus the UN agencies are sending through the airport of Arish and through the crossing. So they have to collaborate with the government in order to reach the Palestinians who need this assistance. So collaboration is needed, and standing together in one position is very important. And this is what the whole, if you have seen, the whole of the Egyptian provinces have shown their support to the Palestinian people, from all youth and elderly and young people and young children. They all support the Palestinians in their fight against Israel, because as you know, they have a just cause, and they are receiving the most dangerous or the most difficult situation in the world, shelling from the planes and bombing their houses, demolishing their places of prayers, and so it is a difficult situation, and we all have to stand beside the Gazans at this point.
Yes. And ladies and gentlemen, that was also what has been reiterated between President al-Sisi and his US counterpart, President Joe Biden, during their phone call. They both agreed on the need to protect the civilians, and also they both agreed on being against the deportation of Gazans outside of their country. Let's check out this report and we'll be right back.
President al-Sisi received the phone call from U.S. President Joe Biden to review transferring humanitarian aid into Gaza, during which Biden expressed his appreciation for Egypt's leading role in efforts to facilitate delivery of humanitarian assistance to the civilian population of Gaza. President al-Sisi and Biden reviewed the security situation in the Middle East in general and the ongoing military escalation in Gaza. The two leaders committed to the significant acceleration and increase of assistance flowing into Gaza. They discussed the importance of protecting civilian lives, respect for international humanitarian law, and ensuring that Palestinians in Gaza are not displaced to Egypt or any other nation, as Egypt has rejection calls from Israel to take in refugees from Gaza. President Sisi stressed that Egypt has not and will never allow displacement of Palestinians from the Gaza Strip to Egyptian territory. During their telephone conversation, President Sisi reiterated Egypt's firm rejection of policies that collectively punish and displace Palestinian people. He reiterated his call for an immediate humanitarian truce to deliver humanitarian, medical and relief aid to the people of Gaza. Biden, for his part, affirmed to President Sisi that the United States likewise rejects displacement of Palestinians outside their homeland, expressing his appreciation for the positive role played by Egypt in this crisis. Biden briefed Sisi on U.S. efforts to ensure that regional actors not expand the conflict in Gaza and also on continuing efforts to secure the release of hostages. The call touched upon the importance of preventing the expansion of the conflict into the region. Both presidents agreed on the need to increase aid and at a scale proportionate to humanitarian needs in Gaza. They also propped prospects for cooperation to realize the two-state solution and establish the Palestinian state in accordance with international law. Biden expressed his rejection of the displacement of Palestinians from their lands and praised Egypt and its leadership for their positive role in addressing the crisis.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, continuing our discussion with Her Excellency Ambassador Shalaby. Your Excellency, now we've heard President Joe Biden calling and talking to President Sisi, and they both reiterated on the necessity of protecting the civilian lives. And I mean, the US administration still doesn't support a ceasefire, and they both agreed on not having any Gazans deported or displaced to any other country. However, the Israeli side is calling for the deportations of Gazans. So what should we believe? Should we believe the statements by the US president, or not statement, but his calls with President Sisi, or should we believe the statements by the Israeli side? Should we believe the statements by the representatives of the US administration? What should we believe, and how can the US administration at least try and convince the Israelis to forget about the idea of deporting Gazans?
Well, two things have changed the attitude of President Biden and the U.S. administration since the beginning of the war. Of course, in the beginning it was a shock. The U.S. administration and President Biden gave a green light for Israelis to do whatever they can to defend themselves or defend Israel. But when they discovered that the way they are defending themselves is by bombing the civilians and killing children and killing women, thousands and thousands of women, and destructing buildings, so they discovered that Israel is not on the right path. That is why, first of all, I said this was one point. The second point was the public opinion in the whole world. All the demonstrations that took place in the whole world have also affected the U.S. administration to become a little more considerate to what is happening. Of course, I'm not asking it now to not to use the veto, because I know they will use the veto every time we go to the Security Council. They will use the veto because they don't want ceasefire. They want Israel to save its face in front of the world, because it was very shameful that they have not been able to detect what was happening on the borders on the 7th of October. The last point which I want to raise is the position of the world, the international community in the United Nations, whether it is in the Security Council or in the General Assembly debate. All this showed how much like it was a unanimous, not unanimous, but it was a majority of 120. Even Iraq, after that, it changed its position, so it became 121 countries who are asking for a ceasefire, who are asking for a humanitarian corridor, who are asking to save to stop the atrocities that are happening, to stop the genocide. So all this have, to a certain extent, affected the U.S. administration's position. And that is why I'm hoping that in the next few days, when the humanitarian assistance start to be delivered in quantities, so that they don't die, or else the population will itself will die. You know, these Palestinians are innocent people. They are just losing their lives for nothing. They are not Hamas. So if even the ground incursion will succeed, it will be also in the face of Israel, that it has 8,000 or more innocent civilians who have been who lost their lives in this war. So it is a shameful position, and that is why President Biden wants to save the face of Israel, because, as you know, it is backing Israel by 100%. It is so if Israel fails, then it is, of course, this situation, they don't want it to happen.
Yes.
So they want to show that Israel have at least succeeded in doing something. But what it did before was really shameful, by all means.
Well, if the UN General Assembly can adopt a resolution calling for a ceasefire that was presented by the Arab group, yet again it would be vetoed within the UN Security Council. It really highlights how inept the whole institution can be in regards to such a conflict, such a humanitarian crisis. So should the international community now depend on individual political and diplomatic efforts individually within with the Israeli government, or with the Palestinians, or with the US trying to broker some sort of a deal? So now we need Egypt, obviously, to play a big role. We need countries such as Qatar or Saudi Arabia or other countries as well, trying to have some sort of an influence within, or apply some sort of pressure to force the Israeli side into a sustainable ceasefire?
Yes, of course, but this is the organization that we have right now, with all its problems, whether they have the veto power for five big powers, and they are using it against all the international humanitarian law and international law. They are using the veto just for their own interest. So, but this is what we have for the right now, and the resolution that has been passed by the General Assembly is going to go back to the Security Council, as you said, and it's going to be vetoed. But at the same time, it is going to be a declaration for the whole world that this country, whether it is US, whether it is Russia, whether it is UK, has vetoed this resolution. So it is shameful in front of the whole world that in spite of the provisions of the human rights, even there was a high official who has resigned today from the Human Rights Council, and this shows that there is no justice in the world. Even the United Nations, who has been created for peace and security in the world, is not able to provide justice to a cause that has been there for 75 years. And it is possible that mediation, like you said, between other countries who have some power over Israel or over Hamas could stop and have a sustainable ceasefire to be in place,
Yes.
so that the humanitarian corridor could be opened and could and assistance, food assistance and medical assistance could be reached.
Well, Your Excellency, what about another country that has been mediating within the whole conflict is Jordan. Now, Jordan has been quite vocal and they have supported the Egyptian stance. Now, how can Jordan apply some sort of pressure or have some sort of an influence regarding this situation, and how can Egypt make use of the political and diplomatic prowess that Jordan can apply within this conflict, especially that it's a direct neighbor as well?
Yes, of course, you have a point, but what can Jordan do? Jordan have received in 2014 refugees from Syria, refugees from Gaza, and it has been always receiving refugees. So how can we expect Jordan to be overloaded with more refugees from Gaza? And even if we want to solve the situation, we want to pressure for a two-state solution. We don't want to relieve Israel from its responsibility. The responsibility of Israel now is to take care of Gaza and the West Bank, and not to bombard them. Every day there are people dying. Palestinians from West Bank are dying. Why? Yes. Because even the settlers themselves, they are taking the role of the army. They are killing. So it is not going to stop by Jordan taking some refugees or hosting the Gazans. And even if Egypt and Jordan are deciding to relieve some of the Gazans, it will be only those who are in need of medical assistance, of maybe elderly, women, children who have really big problems that cannot stay in the war area. So that will be an excellent position if Egypt and Jordan would together decide to relieve some of the Gazans. Yes. who are in dire need of help medically.
Yes. Well, ladies and gentlemen, Egypt has moved over 31,000 tons of medical and food aid through the Rafah border crossing into the Gaza Strip, but still more is needed to try and alleviate somehow the sufferings of the Gazans. Let's check out this report and we'll be right back.
Since the Israel-Hamas war erupted on the 7th of October, Egypt has moved more than 3,100 tons of food, medicine, medical supplies and other humanitarian aid to Gaza Strip. According to North Sinai Governorate, which also said a total of 193 trucks entered Gaza from Egypt through the Rafah border crossing, carrying humanitarian aid from world countries and organizations. North Sinai Governor Mohammed Abdel Fadil Shusha said the governorate has allocated a spot for receiving humanitarian and relief aid in preparation for its entry into Gaza through the Rafah border crossing. Gaza on Sunday received the largest aid shipment since the war between Israel and Hamas began, as nearly 3 dozen trucks entered the region. Egypt has been delivering daily humanitarian aid to the Strip amid deteriorating situation in Gaza in the wake of Israeli strikes that displaced around 1.4 million Palestinians of the 2.3 million people inhabiting the Strip. Egypt has called for increasing humanitarian aid being delivered to the Strip, as UN estimates that Gaza currently needs at least 108 trucks per day. The Rafah border crossing serves as the sole point of delivering aid to Gaza. Many of the world countries have been sending aid to Egypt's Al Arish International Airport to be sent to the Strip. Egypt has also stressed the need to enforce a ceasefire in Gaza and allow humanitarian truce to take place in order to allow the entry of aid and protect civilians. The Foreign Ministry blamed Israel for delaying delivery of humanitarian aid to Gaza by creating obstacles for aid convoys and imposing too strict and slow inspection measures. The Israeli unrelenting strikes have so far killed more than 8,000, around half of them are children, and injured more than 21,000 people. The Red Cross has cautioned of the gravity of humanitarian situation in Gaza Strip, calling for opening humanitarian pathways for several days, not hours, to allow large amounts of badly needed assistance into the enclave. It says that the society delivers assistance materials to the Palestinian Red Crescent, which works in collaboration with the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine refugees in the Near East. It has further called on the world community to play its role to help Gaza Strip and send urgently needed aid, thanking the Egyptian government for its pivotal role in offering assistance to Gaza Strip. The Egyptian Red Crescent has delivered relief aid to Gaza Strip to be delivered to the Palestinian Red Crescent Society as a third phase. According to the UN, at least 100 trucks daily are needed to meet essential needs in Gaza, where Israel has imposed a complete blockade as part of its declared war on the Strip, leaving 2.3 Palestinians with no access to food, power and fuel. The strategic medical reserves in the enclave are currently at an alarming rate given the rising rate of injuries.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Continuing our discussion with Ambassador Shalaby. Your Excellency, now 3,100 tons of humanitarian aid over the past maybe 3 weeks, and it's not guaranteed that everything that goes through the Egyptian side actually gets to the Gazan side. Now, over 8,000 people have already died. About 21,000 are injured, and I'm not talking about broken bones. Some are critically injured that they might end up losing their lives as well. So even though they're 3,100 tons, is it a bit too little, too late? I mean, it needs to keep going, but it might not reach the desired target by the time it actually reaches the hospitals and the injured and the suffering Gazans.
Yes, Hani, I know that what you are saying, but this is the Israeli position. They want to trade they don't want to allow the assistance until they free all the 250 who are hostages who had been kidnapped or who had been I don't know how they got them in Gaza, but at the end of the day, it is not in their interest to destroy Gaza. At the end of the day, Gaza was a safeguard for Israel, and now Israel is treated as, I mean, this war that we are talking about is not a compatible war, because, as you know, Hamas is a resistance movement. It is a resistance movement, and it was created because of what is happening to Gaza, because it was a prison. It was sealed. There was nothing allowed. They were not allowed to go out of Gaza. The population of Gaza and Israel has treated them with a lot of as a second-class citizens, not as human beings, or even they have said they are almost like animals. I'm sorry to say it, but this is what they have said in their own television. But what I'm saying that it is very important to know why this has happened. They have to go to the roots of the situation. This war it has not started the 7th of October. It has started 75 years ago. It has started 15 years ago it has started. There has been many wars between Hamas and Israel before. Of course, this is the biggest one, but I mean, this has happened because of the policy that Israel has been treating the Palestinians. They are not giving them their rights. They have been killing them without innocent killings, without giving them any kind of rights. The settlement, even the settlers themselves, they were increasing the settlements. The settlers were attacking the Palestinians. So at the end of the day, this is a problem that has been there for a long period, and Hamas has been reacting because of what has been suffering. The Gazans have been suffering for all these years. So to treat these two as equal is wrong, because Israel is a big power. It has the fourth largest army in the world, and Hamas is a resistance movement. It has done atrocities, but the atrocities that they have done because of what had been the policy of Israel in treating the Palestinians. They are not. There has been no peace process going on. They have stopped all the initiatives that has been done before in order to give them their rights. So what can they do? If anybody was in their place, and as a resistance movement, they have to express their opinion. They have to express their rights. They have to tell the world how much they are suffering. So it is at the end of the day, the assistance, the food assistance that is going to go when the people are dead. They are losing every day. How many people every day? So if they do not allow this relief assistance to pass through, then they are going to destroy Gaza, and it is not in the favor of anybody in the world, even to Israel themselves, to destroy Gaza. Why are they going to destroy those people, innocent people? Why are they going to destroy them?
Well, a lot of political analysts and observers are actually talking about the good starting point to have any negotiations between both sides would be a prisoner swap, and it would be beneficial for both sides. However, it needs some sort of a ceasefire, a halt to the aggression, and Israel is not abiding or accepting such a proposal. So what is more important for the Israeli side? Is it destroying Gaza and destroying Hamas, or actually trying to save some of the hostages within a prisoner swap deal?
This is what has to take place now, and as you mentioned before, there has to be certain powers who have to start mediation, has to start negotiating ceasefire, because the swap, the prisoner swap should start, and it will be in the whole plan of the sustainable ceasefire. But just stopping the war just for humanitarian corridor is not going to solve the situation. There has to be an international conference to discuss the two-state solution, so that people in Gaza have a hope for the future, or else this war will end to nothing. We will go back to square one. The Gazans or the Palestinians want a solution, and Israel is not helping. So if there is a swap of prisoners, they want all their prisoners back. For the detainees. if there is any kind of negotiation, then it will happen. If they are not negotiating, then they will continue the bombardment, and the international community is watching, and they are not at all helping. They are, on the contrary, they are increasing their assistance, military assistance to Israel, military assistance from the United States, from Canada, from Germany, from United Kingdom. You have seen all this assistance, military assistance to destroy Hamas. And then who is going to suffer? The Gaza population, 2.5 million people are going to lose their lives because of this war.
Well, then what chance does the international community have for the Gazan people if military assistance is being sent by big major world powers who actually have as well the right to veto within the UN Security Council? So what can actually pressure them to change course of their political alliances and their political stances? Because is public opinion going to be enough? What sort of deals need to be made? What sort of pressure needs to be made, applied?
As I said, public opinion, media, social media, UN agencies, UN General Assembly, UN Security Council, all the organizations who are supposed to be for peace and security in the world, or else the world will become a big zoo, and everybody will kill the other and will say this is the fact of life.
Ladies and gentlemen, obviously a lot of escalations taking place day by day within the Gazan conflict with Israel. Unfortunately, we keep reporting a rise in the number of casualties, a number of the people killed. Still not enough humanitarian and medical aid being supplied, but Egypt is doing as much as it can. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for this edition of the Daily Debate. But before we go, I'd like to thank my very distinguished guest, Her Excellency Ambassador Soaad Shalaby, former Assistant Foreign Minister. Your Excellency, thank you very much for joining us this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, please stay tuned for more coming up on Nile International. I'm Henny Saif. Thank you for joining us.